Welcome back, everybody. It's the RP Show, Silver State Sports Game Plus podcast and WQVZ. I read his resume a couple of times, but I will again. NFL vet from Cleveland and Buffalo, CFL player, Toronto, Montreal coach, Calgary, Montreal, and a whole lot of time in the indoor leagues. Khalil Carter joins us on the RP Show today. How you doing, Coach Carter?
RP, man, it's good to see you live and in person, man. I'm doing well. If I was any better, I'd be you, brother. I'll tell you that.
Stop it. Hey, I want to talk about the news of the day, man. Out of Cleveland, if you don't mind, the Browns going with
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson today. Not going over necessarily well. What did you think when you saw that?
I just think there's an investment there that they can't ignore. I think that's just the business of the sport. You gave that man a lot of money to come over there and produce, thinking he would return to his days of his greatness when he was in Houston and in college. We've watched all his storylines over the years, and as bad as they've been, I could never ever doubt the heart of a true champion, of a true competitor. I think you've got to give him the wheels as Shador is still young. We've seen him make mistakes last year. Not sure he's ready to be the version of himself that the Cleveland Browns need, but having two guys that are sort of at the same level is not a bad problem to have. There are other teams with worse quarterback situations. So I'm not a Deshaun Watson fan. I'm more inclined to go with a Shador, but I think their quarterback problems are far from over.
Okay, well, I was actually going to ask you that if it were you, who would you be picking a week? Well, you just answered it. So, but you make a great point about the investment. That's still a thing, isn't it? I mean, it's not in this
It is.
case necessarily about who gives us the best chance to win. It's like we've given this guy $236 million. Let's make him earn it, basically.
Yeah, that we all have pride in this game. I mean, good pride, bad pride, and we know pridefulness comes before a great fall. And so, if you're going to be prideful about the money you spend, or even questionable about the character of the men you choose, sometimes you got to just go into the ship falls off or things fall off the rails. And I think a lot of teams, when they invest money in guys like that, they don't want to cut their losses too early. I remember a couple years ago, there was a quarterback, Osweiler, was in Denver as a backup
Brock
or got a chance to
Osweiler. Yeah,
play,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and he
Yep.
got a whole lot of money to go to Houston, and I think it lasted all part of a half a season, and so they got rid of that because investment wasn't as large, but they held on to him too, and I think he was a good quarterback, solid guy, and there are several stories like that in the NFL, but when you give away that much money, you almost look foolish not to see your investment to fruition. So I feel bad for them because my good friend Brandon Lynch for the Saskatchewan Roughriders is their defensive back coach, pass game coordinator. He has that defense humming. They be flying around, but that offense has a lot of work to do. Has a lot of work to do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. By the way, you and I have been talking off and on the last couple of months. I never did ask you where you at right now. Where are you joining us from today?
Yeah, I'm in Arizona. Moved down here after I
Nice.
took a another bad job, and we'll discuss that a little bit of Rod. But I take jobs out of my heart, man. I know I can transform bad teams into good teams. I can transform secondaries into the best in the league. And so I've been trying to do that consistently over the last 10 years since I left the CFL, or 8 years since I left the CFL, and I've had success. But I moved to Arizona to kind of get away from football, and this is a place where football lives. I'm more kind of getting behind the scenes in the ministry, in the player development, and helping out guys who are suffering from CTE related symptoms. I think that's a huge problem for guys after the sport. So I'm kind of just giving my heart to the game. And Mark Trustman said this best. He just texted me today actually, and he said football doesn't love you back. So I just give and give and
Yeah.
give until I got no more to give, and the game is the game. So I'm in Arizona. I'm loving it though. I'm loving retirement. I'm loving being in Arizona, except for the heat.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place. Well, I'm sitting here in Vancouver, and I do not hate the weather. I will. Everybody's complaining about the mist. I'm like, no, no, no. I'll be in Florida in 2 weeks, and I'm okay with this. By the way, we'll get to that CFL stuff in a second. The reason I ask you is, I'm just wondering what's popping out to you in the NFL preseason. Is it all Cardinal stuff because you're living there, or is that what other things aside from this
I'm
Cleveland
seeing a lot
quarterback
about the
situation?
Cardinals actually. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot about the Cardinals. I think they played Jeremiah Love a little too long in the first preseason game. You got a commodity like that, you don't get him hurt. Same thing with Bruda Baker. I think he started. I was at the game this last weekend. They played him. I know you got to get reps, but you got commodities that you can't lose, especially on a team that's projected to be at 500 or less this year. Still with not a complete picture at quarterback. Still a work in progress on the defensive side of the ball. My good friend Chris Cook is the offensive line coach over there. We talk candidly about what they're trying to do this year. And, they got a quarterback that's a veteran guy that's really, really steady and really solid, just not a world beater. And I think when you go into a season with a situation like that, You got to have really good defensive playing. You got to be able to run the ball, and you got to play special teams. So, really interesting. But across the NFL, I just see teams doing what they're doing, protecting their starters, protecting their assets, building this camaraderie and unity, and kind of consolidarity of purpose, which is what good teams do, especially early on. Takes a little while to build that throughout the season because the great teams gel when it's time, as in October, November. But you'll love to see a good team start off winning, and I see the Eagles doing that. I see the Chiefs bouncing back. I like what I see out of Denver. I like what I see out of Seattle. So the real teams are doing what they do. They got great quarterbacks, great leaders, and that's where it all starts in the NFL.
It's funny you say that because I was talking to John Ryan yesterday. You know John, JR,
Oh
punter,
yeah,
Super Bowl
oh
winning
yeah.
punter with the Seahawks. He said he couldn't have played in today's pro sport because of the glare of the fans outside. And John's a pretty mentally strong guy, but he goes, I don't think I could deal with it. So you and everybody's saying Jeremiah Love shouldn't play as much for the Cardinals. And if you're the coach, my point is, how much do the teams hear of the outside noise? Or are they just in their own vacuum and they don't hear it? Like, do they feel they screwed up in this or not?
I can say that the players definitely have a different perspective than the ownership group and the leadership, and not knocking any side because they're all different. Like you and I, we have different
Yeah.
perspectives about certain things, but as friends, we can dialogue. We can even bark and yell at each other sometimes, and it's all love. I think that's kind of that same dichotomy is the players are going to see and think one thing, and the leadership differently. They all hear it though. The only time they don't hear it is when the game is on. When the game is on, no
That's
one
what
cares, right?
I say that all the time. Yeah, you're right. People don't think that they can hear you. So I say be careful what you say because they do hear. So continue. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think so. With that dichotomy of differences of perspective and intent and purpose, um, you kind of got to take it all in. A true professional can take it all in and handle the pressure and the criticism and the scrutiny without pointing fingers. And Pinball Clemens said this to me the other day when I talked to him. He said, "In this building, we don't point fingers." And so many times we do see that from coaches to players pointing fingers at one side of the ball or management or what's happening with Brandon Ayuk in San Francisco. There are mishandlings all the time. There are Brock Purdy that come out of not being drafted in the right spot, even though he was a great player in college and high school. We don't always get it right. The point is not to always get it wrong because that costs people their jobs and their livelihood. And I think players do that too. Stay off social media with your input about your team. Keep that all stuff in house. But the leadership needs to respect that too. I think sometimes they do a little bit more than they should. There is a balance. The balance is unity of purpose. What are we trying to accomplish as a team? Not as an organization, not as a sport, but as a team. People in that locker room, the Pete Carroll mentality of loving on your coach and loving on your players works. It's a design that has been proven, but you have to have the right pieces. And drafting and free agency all plays into that. I'm mad at my Cowboys for never getting Derrick Henry. How do you miss up
Wow.
on Derrick Henry and he goes for 1,800 that year? You don't do that, Cowboys, to end up with Miles Sanders and the guy Williams. They're a good 1-2 punch, but it's still just slightly above average. So we got to get that part right. And you do that by listening to all your leaders, all of the voices inside the house, ignoring the outside noise. You hear it, but you don't respond to it. You don't let it move you. And then during the game, you play ball, baby. You just ball.
See, this is the reason I've always had time for you because I knew you're very well spoken, very intelligent guy, and we're going to get around to the CFL in a second. But I also am a Cowboy fan, and it tries me. And you know what I'm talking about. Can we just spend a minute on the boys, America's team, and the fact that everybody says it seems different coming out of there? Jerry has shut up largely. He's got serious about the defense. Could they be for real? Finally,
It all depends on the health of Dak Prescott. I like what Joe Milton did last game. Did you see him? I've been liking him
right?
since Tennessee. That boy is
He's
a
outstanding.
great
He's a
company.
linebacker.
Oh, I love him. He's like a baby Cam
Yeah.
Newton with a little bit more touch. And I watched him at Tennessee. I knew he would do well. Didn't like him in the Patriots offense behind Drake May and Matt Jones. I didn't like him in that system, but in this system that is not zone reoriented or quarterback run friendly like Lamar Jackson's offense, but it has a pass first mentality. But I still think that you have to have that quality backup. And Joe's not there yet, but I saw some really good things with his deep ball, with his decision making. That's the Cowboy team that can win with plenty of depth at receiver, tight end, great offensive line, decent run game, a great D line. Even though we got rid of Michael Parsons, we didn't want $2 million more, and we gave it to a DB, which are a little bit more dime a dozen. I say it as a DB, a little bit more dime a dozen than a great pass rusher. So we got to make those good decisions, Cowboys and other NFL execs. Make the right decisions. Don't let your ego get in the way of good football. Because John Huffnagel said, I'm name dropping here. John Huffnagel says, no matter what, don't play bad football. And you saw when I was with Calgary, we were amazing. He made great decisions. He had great retention, and he signed only the free agents that made sense for the room. And I think you have to do that in order to be successful.
Yeah, you guys waited for us to make mistakes. You didn't make any on your own. You waited, and eventually we would, and we'd lose the game. Anyways, Ottawa 0-10. They're bringing in Jim Pop. I'm sure you saw that today. What do you think about that move?
Now, I know Jim. Jim brought me in when I left Toronto in 2008. He didn't play me immediately. That was a Trestman decision, but I love Mark Trestman in his mind. I think Jim is as good of a player, personnel, talent, and talent kind of scout as anyone else. I think he understands the CFL game and what it takes to be successful. I saw what he did in Toronto too. I saw what he did in the UFL with that. I just think that Jim is a solution on the board that definitely can have positive results. But I think in-house for Ottawa, you have guys that have been successful in the league. I don't know how well they're gelling in the coaching staff. I talked to a friend of mine who used to coach on that staff a couple years ago or last year, and he's like, "Man, it's non-football people making football decisions." And I say that lightly because I respect a lot of people in that room, um, and in that building, from Pete Costanza to Will Fields to even Ron Dinwiddie, who I coached with in Calgary. But I think that there's some other things that are happening in the organizational part of it that's not necessarily translating to picking the right guys or that team gelling. And we know Dinwiddie. Dinwiddie's outspoken. He is a bit of a finger pointer at times, blaming certain aspects of his teams and players and things. And I think he's lost sight of what this is all about, the CFL. There's a brotherhood that's different from the NFL and the CFL. And Mark Trestman learned that in year 2 and year 3 when he won Grey Cups. It's not the NFL. It's not a bunch of millionaire egomaniacs running around. It's a bunch of hard-nosed, hard-fighting Canadians and Americans trying to live their dreams. And once you get that right, you start winning. Also, with the personnel you have at coaching, it's been a lot of turnover. I know they got Will Fields still there. I love Will, great player, great coach, really humble man of God and everything. I love Will. Will needs some help. Will needs some help. And I think Ottawa's situation can get better with Jim Pop, but he's not the only answer. I mean, without disrespecting my boy Dinwiddie, I love you, man. You know your brother, Henry Burris. Henry Burris. I say Henry Burris for the third time would be a great addition or solution to being able to get players that inspire them to play better football. I just love Henry. He's charismatic. He knows the game. He's a champion. He actually beat me twice in his 2 championships. I love Henry. I think he would be a good solution in Ottawa.
It's actually funny because he just went through broadcast school, NFL broadcast school. I'm like, Hank, you're going to be on the sidelines or upstairs and behind a desk, not on the air. But he's the kind of guy who can do whatever he wants. Okay,
What he
Khalil Carter,
wants.
this is what I wanted to talk about. What did you want to talk about today?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the first platforms I've been able to kind of just talk about where I am in the CFL and the infrastructure that's there. And I spoke to many people like yourself, Justin Dunk, from the Dave Naylor to my mentors, Pinball Clemens and others. And I even talked to Dave Dickinson and Huff Nagel before, and Devon Claybrook, who's one of my confidants. I don't know why I'm not there. Okay. I was 50 and 10 in Calgary as a secondary coach, pass game coordinator. I called all the plays on second down or long passing downs. First down pass, I called all of them. Clay Brooks always just related to me, hey, what you want to run on second down? We helped him with his call sheets. We helped him with the game planning. We were instrumental into the success of Calgary from 2015 to 2018 with the 2 Grey Cups and lost them. But we came out the gate 13, 1-1 both of those seasons. That wasn't just Dave Dickinson. That wasn't just John Huffnagel. That just wasn't Devon Claybrooks because we lost those championships for some of those people. I mean, myself included. I mean, our secondary didn't play well against Henry, but we stormed back and we had a chance to win that game until we put our third string quarterback in to run a 2-point conversion play. And we had the number 1 rusher. And people say, oh, you're pointing the finger. I'm not. I'm just being honest and truthful about what happened. Coming out 13 1-1 with a chance to be the greatest team in CFL history is worth not playing your starters throughout. It kind of reminds me of what happened with Saquon Barkley when he had the rushing title on the line, and
And
they
they sat
don't
him. They
play him
sat him.
against his former team, against his former team, and they win a championship, which is the ultimate goal, no question about that. But you could have had both. You can have your cake and eat it too in football if you just believe in your guys and you believe in your coaches and you believe in the infrastructure. You can have it all. So I think there was a point in time, and after that second Grey Cup loss, where I had moved on. I was going to Montreal, and I talked to Dave because some things had happened, and Dave said to me, hey, we're going to move on. I said, Dave, I already got a job, man. I already got my stuff packed up. I'm out of here. It's all good. Thank you for the opportunity. I love coaching for y'all. I said, all I ask you is don't put out a press release saying that I'm leaving. Because most time in CFL, they just hire the new staff. They don't tell you who's leaving until they hire the new staff. Well, the next day they put out a press release. Khalil Carter's being released by the Stampeders. Why? I still got paid out my contract. It wasn't a firing with cause, right? It was basically a pink slip saying we're not going to retain you. We have Josh Bell, who's going to be our next DB coach. They're going to win a Grey Cup. All things good. But don't try to embarrass me for the sake of saving face for the Grey Cup losses. Those were two very embarrassing losses. Probably two of the greatest defeats or underdog stories of CFL history. Where we were one of the greatest teams ever. And so I don't like the stigma that's being attached to me. I often get compared to Dion with my swag or my articulate nature or even my playing career. I got 50 career interceptions in 150 games. Only 2 Hall of Famers in the CFL career have that average. And I played in 5 different leagues. So that consistency was over time. As a coach, I'm 140 and 40. Went 50 and 10 in the CFL and created a Montreal defense in 2018 that was formidable. Jamal Westerman, Jabari Westerman, Woody Barron, John Bowman, Pinnock Mwamba, Chris Aki, Mitchell White, Tavon Campbell, Tommy Campbell, Joe Burnett, Chip Cox. That team on paper, that defense was phenomenal. But because the coaches that were under me didn't like my style, I got kind of termed a bad leader. Now, I wasn't a servant leader then. I didn't understand servant leadership. I didn't understand humility, but I didn't understand servant leadership. I tried to coach like I had been coached. Huffnagel was nice. He was mean, but he was direct and he was right, right? And I love him for
Yeah.
it. Old school. I'm old school. I'm going to get my guys to get their jobs done because they're getting paid for it. And that kind of leadership does work with Bill Parcells or Bill Belichick or those types. But they're not Tony Dungy. They're not Michael Pinball Clemens, who uses love and spirituality to inspire people. And I had to learn that in time, but it didn't mean I couldn't win there. I just had Mike Sherman and Cavers Reed. So when I finally got my chance, the leadership above me was somewhat corrupt. And it corrupted what we tried to do. And during that time, and this is the first time I get my story out, Cavers called me that entire year because they started 0-9 because Richard Stubler behind the scenes was telling people, oh, they're not going to win a game with Khalil Carter, defensive coordinator. And then they go 0-9. And Cavers calls me, hey, how can we fix it? I tell him, move him here, move him there, move him here. You can't put those two guys on the same side. You got to move around, spread the defense out. You got to find another will linebacker. Chris Aki cannot blitz. These things that we talked about. And at the end of the season, they offered me my job back. No one knows this. They offered me my job. They flew me to Orlando, offered me my job back. They wanted me to take a pay cut for Bob Slowick, who I respect immensely. But Bob Slowick hasn't been successful in the CFL. Hasn't been successful. But he's a name. He's a great coach from the NFL. He was Mike Sherman's guy. But they wanted me to take a pay cut, a $70,000 pay cut, to be the DB coach when I hadn't even given a chance to be a D coordinator yet, despite all the success that I had as a player and a coach.
We
7
only got
Eastern or Western finals. And I
we only
hadn't I
got 30
hadn't
seconds
failed.
left. We
All
only
right,
got
so
30 seconds
that's
left.
kind
A
of what
quick
it is.
message. A
To
quick
look,
message in 30
GMs,
seconds.
head coaches, all you guys, give a guy a chance. You want to win, let booby spin. I'm not a problem. I'm not a terror. I didn't have any problem in Calgary. I am a solution-oriented coach. You want to win? Let Cliff Carter win. That's all. Let him spin. Let me coach your secondary. We will be number one.
Nice job. And I got your number if anybody needs it. Khalil, this has been great. Keep in touch, man. Outstanding job.
Thank you, brother.
Real good job by Khalil Carter. We'll be right back with a sports update and viewer takeover the rest of the way. It's the RP Show.